Hey up everybody and welcome back. Alright, we're getting near to the finish line, one could say. We're down to small jobs. I mean there's only a moderate amount to do on this. There's a gearbox to put in and the primary drive on that side. Footrests to put on. I said we've still got to make the saddle for it and the tank, which are the two big jobs, plus cost the saddle. Yeah, I'll probably get it upholstered, although it is a bit expensive, but that would take it out for a little while. But other than that, I've got to remember to put the something on the bottom of the engine. What I'm going to do, there was one little job, I don't know if I mentioned it, that I'd completely forgotten. I still haven't got the sort of T-piece or a way to take the scavenge feed off the return to the rockers. So we've got to look, we've got the return line onto the top of the tank, but unlike say the 250, the oil line's coming off the bottom of the engine, the input and the output. On the 250, the output one, the return, actually has a little takeoff, smaller diameter takeoff, that's the feed up to the rockers. Like on, I guess all the Triumphs, on the C15 oil tank, which was up here, the feed was actually right up at the top, just before it goes into the oil tank. So that's what we're going to do here. So we've got a little bit of fiddly welding to do. I'll show you that, I've got it over there. But other than that, it's lots of little things. I've got to put the rear engine mounting plates on, but the top mounting of that is the mounting for the oil tank. I still haven't done or even thought of a second mounting for the oil tank. I've only got one mounting point, haven't I? Whoa, how things get away from you. Okay, well, I'll put the engine plate on and then we'll look at the oil tank. Alright, so let me do that. I've got to set the rockers, set the valve clearances, now I'll put the covers on there, and then we've got to think about that head steady as well. Okay, plenty to do, let's get on with it. Right, well, so I've got the oil tank on, say it mounts there. I've got to make up a front mount. I've just thought of something that might work for that. But of course it wouldn't go on with the carburetor on, but by taking the float ball off and just popping the floats up, I was able to get it on. Because it's one of those things where this is really difficult to get on with the air filter box on, and the air filter box won't go on with the rear mudguard on. Again, it's so close, but it just won't fit in. But anyway, so we've got two things to do with this. So we've got to make a front engine mount. I'll explain that in a minute. But we've also got to go from a takeoff from here somewhere to go up to the rockers. So as I say, with the C15, it's where the tube goes into the tank. There's a takeoff there, I think. Hold on a second. I just went over there to refresh my memory, but I couldn't see because of course there's a shroud, a sort of cover in between the oil tank and the toolbox, so you can't see in there. But that's where it takes off, same as the Triumph Twins. It's right when it gets up to the box, to the tank. So I'm thinking of putting one on there, and the hose will go on, that'll go off there, because don't forget, this doesn't stop there, it goes in about halfway, and then the end is actually blanked off and there's a little hole. So it's not the full idea of this that's spilling out into there. There's a restriction there, and that's the bit of back pressure that gets that going up there to feed that. The only thing here, of course, is welded a little bit of tube onto a little bit of tube. I mean, I don't mind welding this, and that came out nicely, but I've got a nasty feeling I could just melt all that away. I've only just got enough room there actually, look, to get the rubber hose on. So what am I thinking of for the front? Hold on a second again. Right then. So I'm thinking of extending this actuating arm for the clutch to make the clutch pull a bit lighter, because the BSAs are brilliant. And to do that, I've got to move this. Now, I did this on my BSA and I actually welded a new piece on here. So what I'm half thinking is, because this goes on, where are we? This one, there was enough room for that to go on there. I don't really want to press this on because it will go on the camshaft. But that goes there, or it does fit under there. So I'm thinking if I put a piece here for that, I can make that also, if I'm going to weld something on, I can make that just a front mounting to keep that like that and stop it being able to do that. So we'll think about that more when we get to it. So let me take this back off and we'll have a look at putting making that into a T. All right, so that's the size of the tube that's going to go on there, and that actually is the hole, because that's the right size drill bit to just fit into the ID of the actual rocker feed tube, the hard tube. So, as I say, we're going to do some fiddly diddly stuff here. So what I'm thinking of doing, because I don't have any tube smaller than this, is we're going to make a piece from a little bit of sort of 1/2 inch round. And what I'll do is I'll make it like so it has a pad at the end. So it's sort of an upside down mushroom, and the stalk of the mushroom is going to be the right size for that to go on. And then the head of the mushroom is just going to give me, as I say, a pad on here to give me a little more material to actually weld, so there's less chance of everything melting and me making a pig's ear of it. So let's go and see if I can find some. I've got to go and buy some round stock, some 1/2 inch stock, so that because I don't want to start off with a piece of 1 inch and have to turn it all the way down to that. Thought as I was going to be taking this oil tank on and off, I take the carburetor off. Pushing the rubbers on, I can just get it in. Alright, so I made a little piece, look. That's the right size to go into the tube that's going to go over there. I've actually just put a what's it in it, a scallop, whatever the word is. So that's going to go on there like that. See, this just gives me more metal to weld this up, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill that when I've got this welded on, because it would be really annoying, wouldn't it, if I drilled a hole in that and then got this welded on and found out that the holes didn't line up. So just to do that, so I'm going to put that on about there, say with just enough to get the hose on, and a clamp. Maybe put it there. Maybe put it there. That should do. Alright, so let me take this over there, clean all this up, and see if I can weld that onto there. That's at a slight slope, isn't it? I might have to... Okay, let me go and try to do that. Slight change of plan. Because this was so small, I was having trouble sort of making a way of holding it while I welded it. So what I've done is I drilled the hole in this, and then I've used the drill to keep everything lined up and to keep that in place. So now if I can tack this alright, take the drill out, and then I can finish drilling it. Alright, finish drilling it, finish welding it. Alright, so that's that on there. I'm glad I made that thicker part. I got the puddle to form, did it, but it's a bit touch and go. Anyway, yeah, you know, if I had been trying to weld that tube to that tube, I wouldn't have managed. But with this welder, I can increase the frequency,
you know, your sort of average welder's working at 60 hertz, the same as the power that's going in. But this, you can change the frequency up to, God, I know, it's a really high number. And the higher the frequency, the more the arc gets concentrated. So the lower the frequency, the wider the arc is. This way you can get it really narrow. So anyway, that worked out all right. Let's go and put this on and then start thinking about a bottom mounting and get this oil tank finished. Well, it's not very often that this happens, but I've changed my mind again. Actually, I think this is something I thought of before. I think what I'm going to do, and I might put one on each side because I can just get at them, is make a couple of little brackets that go on there. This is 1/4 inch. Got a really big bracket here. I'm just going to drill that and tap it. Put a little bracket on there, and that'll work for that. As I say, it's just to stop it wobbling, and in fact I think I only need one on one side. The only thing I've got to think about, see, as I often do, I've sort of made things difficult for myself. This really clever idea of getting a bit of extra capacity going in there. As you saw, I have to take the carburetor off. I can't just fit this in, it's got to go in like this. So if I have a bracket that goes close to that, it's going to make it even more, unless I have the bracket out a bit and a spacer so that I can finagle it in, then just slip the spacer in and put the bolt in. But it's getting close to lunchtime, which is leftover curry, so you might see me with a bright yellow moustache when I come in on the next bit of film. So yeah, I'll think about this while I'm eating. Alright then, you know the procedure. Bit of cardboard, cut to our sort of rough shape to see where everything's going to go, and then from that we make a nicer one. So that's going to go on the bottom of that, like that. Then we're going to drill there, yeah, drill there, and tap that. Okay, so let me make some marks here so that I can get this welded on nicely. Have I put that hole in a good place? Yes, I made that a little bit out, so I'm going to just slightly change the shape of it. As I say, it doesn't have to be particularly strong. It wants to be, yeah, that'll be alright. Alright, let me go and reshape this a bit. Right, so there, that is welded on there, reshaped yet again. And that hole I've drilled is just 7/32, so I'm going to use that as a guide. That's the correct drill for tapping the 1/4 inch thread. So we will that out of there. That's still a bit warm. And that can go come on. Alright, let me tap that. Alright, so there's that on there. So I can put this top bolt in. We can see about doing that rocker oil feed. Right, I've taken the oil tank off because I wanted to give it a final check for leaks, and I found one actually right near the top. The tank would have to be overfilled for it to leak, but anyway, I just welded that up so it's cooling down. I thought I'd put the chain and bits on, and I'm damned if I can find the chain. So let me go and look for that. Alright, I found it. Usual thing, in an effort to be efficient, I'd put it where I wouldn't normally put it. Okay, so we've got one of these rubbing blocks that's complete, so the chain's got to go through that first. So let's put that through there. It's catching on it. That there. And what am I always telling you? Make sure you've got everything to hand when you start the job. Get the master link. There we go. Is this a bit boring showing you how to put a chain on? Well, is it? Come on, speak up. It's fiddly and it's messy, I'll tell you that. But we're going to do it anyway. There we go. And next we'll put the oil tank on. And we'll set the valve to... What have I done with that now? Just put the bloody thing down. Where's the spring link gone? Oh. Oh, there it is. And don't forget our little fishy thing. Closed end is the way it swims, that's its head. So the chain's going to go that way. Now then, how did this go? We put this in the upper one, didn't we? And changed that after we paint. Push the little thing out, got muck on it. Alright, I am going to switch you off for a moment. Alright, put the chain tensioner on. And I put a lock nut on the back of that. So let's get this on. I've loosened that off just to make it a little easier to fit this in. Because those things have got to go behind the chain. Down there. That one goes all the way through there. To that. And then you may remember we have a little spacing piece here because we couldn't make it one piece as it had to go over the chain. So, there. That through that into the back one. Thus. Now I'll tighten the back wheel up. And all that's done. So let me tighten this up and then we're going to put the oil tank back on. Right, so that's everything tightened up. Nothing is catching. Not catching on the chain guard, chain. Tyre's not catching. Fine. Oil tank. Put the oil tank back on. Now, I didn't have, in amongst the bits for this engine, the rocker feed. So I went and got one off another head. And the other head had the thin nuts on. Now that's what I was saying before, you see, look, there's a nut that goes on that bolts the rocker box down, and then this goes on, and then there's another nut that goes on. So I was able to put them on right. Now the next thing we've got to do is, see, that's got to go through there. Well, I mean, you could route it any way you like, but that was on like that. Now that, when I look at the other side, is in the way of the cable, so needs to go down a bit. Now these pipes are plated, I think they're zinc plated, but as you can see, I've bead blasted up. They're actually copper and brass soldered up. So I just say I wanted that to be a bit down. Actually, I should put the washers on here. Hold on, so that I know I'm packed out, because if I get it right and then put it on, I might be wrong. Right, well, we're carrying on as we started. I used Doughty washers for these, and the smallest in the Imperial box I've got are 1/8 inch, and they're too big. Which I could use them for now to get the right thickness. The size I normally use are 10mm, and of course when I get my Doughty washer kit out, as you can see, everything but 10mm. So what we'll do is we'll put some 8mm ones on for 8mm, 1/8 of an inch. You'll find that the BSP sizes are really strange, because as with the sort of difference between tube and pipe, they work on inside diameters. So that's what's classed as an 1/8 inch BSP, and it is actually a bit big for that, but I'm going to put them on just so that I've got the right thickness, because they're about twice as thick as the copper washers you get. See, there's 4 copper washers. In fact, it's nearly as thick as 3 of them, but we're not going to use them. So what did I do with the pipe now? Oh, God, there it is, staring me in the face. You were all saying, there it is. It's like asking where your glasses are when they're not on the top of your head. Right, so that's going to go on there. Oh, actually, these are barely big enough. I don't know if I'll get Doughty washers on them. There's not enough length. I might have to use copper washers. Alright, how are we doing here? Spark plug's just in the way. Okay, that is very nice for that. Let me just put these on here. I just want to hold the pipes in place while I do some bends round the back. That will take it. Oh, come on. Come on, you look perfect. These things are sent to try it, so it's definitely the nut, because that one goes on there. Yeah, I can see a bit of. Huh! I must have blown that bit of muck out. Alright, let's go around the other side. Right, so I've got this bent up, so now we're going to put that from there to about there. So let me warm this end up so it'll go on there. And of course, I often get comments that I don't put barbs on these things, but they're all low pressure fittings, and with a clamp on, they're fine. Now, I haven't got any small clips either, so what I'm going to do is fit these, and then I'll use small Jubilee clips because I can open them up to fit them round. Right, let's try that. There we go. That goes on there. And that will push on to about there. Hang on, if we're going to fasten that nice and tight, let's go right to there. See, nearly did it. Making it too long's alright, but too short is a bit of a problem. There we go, put a couple of clips on there, and that's that. Alright, I think we should put the carburetor on. Right, I put the carburetor on, and now I've had a look at it, it reminds me there's a couple of little jobs to do on this. Things are really awkward. Hang on, can you see all the carburetor? This is the fuel line in. Right? Usually they go in the top, so then look at that, sticks out, and it couldn't stick out on the other side out of the way, could it? But the one thing I do remember was this, the choke here, look, is incredibly long. So what we're going to do, it screws off, is we're going to shorten this rod. We'll get this off, shorten the rod and put it on. Also, I don't know what that is. Capped off. It's some sort of obviously it goes in on the engine side, so it's going to have vacuum on it. Don't know what that's for, maybe for some application that. Alright, so we need a throttle cable for this. I annealed these copper washers and used the copper ones because with the Doughty ones, I'm sure I've used Doughty ones on B44s before. But anyway, they were so thick I virtually couldn't get the end nut on. Alright, so what's the next thing to do? Might be to go for lunch. Hang on, let me have a think. Right, I am going to go to lunch, but before I start anything else, but I thought I'd show you a couple of little things. You remember when I put the camshaft in, I pointed out that it was hollow and there was a hole in the side of it as a timed breather. Well, the way it works timed is, this is the bush that the outer end of the camshaft fits in. See the hole there? It goes through there and comes out here. So as the camshaft's spinning round, when the hole in that side of the camshaft lines up with that, it vents the crankcase pressure, and then as it moves around, of course, it blocks that off. So that's one thing. The other thing is that you've got to remember with there it is, that we're dealing with a round barrel. So on the round barrel was only for, I don't know, 2 years, something like that. See, this is B44, but it's from the square barrel one, and you see the oil pipes off that, they have the little takeoff down there. Now hold on a second. No, I was going to show you a B44 oil tank, but it just struck me I only have oil tanks off the later models. so they won't have the takeoff. Alright, let me go and get some lunch. Right, let's pop this little cover on here because I actually still have a couple of 2B Allens which I bought for doing this. They're just the right length, or they should be anyway. This is one of those blind. That's got it. Alright, it's coming along a bit, it's coming along a bit. Now, I'm going to take this card back off. Funny enough, it went on really easy last time. Because I've got to do a couple of things, there's bits sticking out that I don't like, and we'll have to do them on the bench. Not going to do it right now, though. Right, so I'll put the coil on, put that in there, put the grommet there for the wires to come through. I still cannot find this. I guess I'm going to have to make another one. Let me go and have another little look. Right then. Changing what we're going to do, because I just had a little mea culpa moment. I was going to put the sump cover on. And I went to that gasket set and there was no sump cover gasket. And I'm thinking, this is bloody atrocious. And then it suddenly struck me, wait a minute. This is a remarkably small packet. There couldn't be a chain case gasket in this. And when I looked, I don't know if I already had one or why I'd ordered it, but it's sort of a decoke set, so it's on your top end gasket set. So I'll have to order a couple of loose gaskets and things like that. So I thought, okay, let's do something else. I've decided I am going to move this. I'm not going to move it. I'm going to make a new one here. Right? So we're going to lengthen this. Now I didn't know actually until quite recently, I'll be honest. And then when I looked at the parts book, I could see it quite clearly. I didn't realise the end of that was threaded on. I have scratched my head so many times wondering how they got that into there. Are you seeing all of this? Yeah. How they got that into there with this on the end of it. And of course, a friend of mine said to me, it's threaded on. And then I was trying to get it off and it didn't want to come off. And then I thought to myself, wait a minute, if that's pulling that way, it can't be an ordinary thread. It's got to be a left-hand thread, otherwise it would unwind itself. So anyway, that screws on the bottom and it's a left-hand thread. So what we're going to do, first of all, is we're going to extend this 1.5 inches. Right? Then we're going to make a piece up to go on there. Do you know what? All my 6-inch rulers have disappeared again. What is it about 6-inch rulers? If I keep putting you out of frame, my apologies. So, hang on. That goes in there. See, that's where it normally is. Oh, actually, I could have measured from there, couldn't I? So if I want to move it to there, it wants to be 1.5 inches longer. So this is just over 1/4 inch. It actually tapers very slightly. It's 243 there, 285 there. So I've got some, this is 3/8. This is 4140 I think. So we'll cut 1.5 inch piece of this. Well, what we'll do is we'll put a little taper on it. By eye. Nothing special. And then we'll cut 1.5 inches. We'll cut this and weld a piece in. Okay? Right, so sort of step 1 and step 2. I cut that, hang on. I'm about just cut that. Measured this, drill the hole in there. So I put that in nice and tight to make it easy to weld up. So then what we'll do is we'll cut this to the length we need. Well, we'll cut it to the length we need plus a bit. Then we'll drill it to fit that. Unfortunately, the taper goes the wrong way here. You know, there we're pushing it onto a taper. Here, taper's going away. So it'll get, I'll have to make sure it doesn't get flobbly. I might try and just ease that a little bit so it'll fit in tighter. But anyway, that's going to go in there and get welded. And then, I don't think it matters that it doesn't taper, does it? I'm not going to go mad and make this taper. Alright, so let me cut this to the appropriate length. I know my mind's wandering. Cut that the appropriate length and drill a hole to fit that into the end of it. And now the next stage. Got the other end drilled, got that in. Right, so that's just our thing there. Get this the right way, and of course one side is bigger where the sort of the collar goes in. I have put it in the wrong way around, haven't I? Hang on. I knew there was a possibility of this happening. Thought this fitted. I thought I tried this. Oh, now come on. Do you remember I went through about 3 different clutch cables to get the one with the right end on it? And that's not it. Oh, bugger me. That was the signal for me to knock off for the day. I'm just rummaging around with cables and it suddenly strikes me, Michael, you dimwit, that top hat doesn't go in there. That top hat is for going in the case. And then that goes in there. So I have put it on the right way around. Eh? Michael, you wally. Alright. Phew. So, let me weld that onto there. Got to twist that slightly. And then that'll definitely have to do for today. Right then, so there we are, welded together. I was wondering, you know, about putting a bend in this, but I was thinking to myself, if I put a bend in it, because it swings in an arc, I mean, I can just heat it and bend it if need be. How would it swing if there was a bend in it? Would it still swing in the right arc? Or would the bend make it sort of plunge down towards there? That was bent down. No, I think that'd be alright. I might put a bend in that. We'll look into it. Anyway, I'm knocking off for the day. Good morning. Right, well, let's see if we can get this thing made during this last session. Okay, so you may remember that when I extended this, I was a bit worried that this was rather high. So I was thinking about bending it, but then I didn't know how the swing of the arc would be if it had a bend in it. So what I've done is I've taped a little bit of welding rod on. I'll put a bend in that, little experimental bend. Then if I put that cable there, as you can see, I think you can see, oops, it basically tracks fine. That's the way the cable would be. So what I'm trying to show is that it doesn't really go up and down much. So I'm going to leave putting a bend in that until we've got the piece on here and I can see where I've got the cable going. So I think I'm going to be able to make it out of that. That's wide enough. I don't want to go and weld close to either edge. So that should be amply thick enough once it's welded on properly to be good and rigid for the clutch to pull. So what I'm going to do is face this off and then I'll drill it through with a diameter for the nipple on the end of the cable, and then about half of the thickness I will open it out to the diameter of that top hat fitting that's on the cable. So let me do those couple of things first, and then we're going to have to do some snazzy marking out and cutting to get it to follow this contour. Well, it'll be that way around. Follow this curve. Actually, yeah, it's such a short piece and it's such a flattish contour there. That probably won't need to. So what we'll need to do probably is mill the bottom off flat so it goes on, and then shape this so that it's not a huge thing. Stage 1. Both sides faced off. One size hole there. Slightly bigger hole there that goes for a 1/4 inch. So holding this without being in the way. So the small hole, that'll go through, and the bigger hole, that fits in just nicely. Alright, so now I've got to think of exactly what shape this is going to be. So it's going to go on that way. We've got to cut the bottom off flat about so, well, it's going to go pointing that way. Cut that off, and then we'll just shape this up nicely. I'll probably mill it into a triangle and then use a file to get it to a nice shape. Put a little bit of chamfer and everything like that on it. Then with all of that welded round, that'll be good and strong. Stage 2. I've milled that off flat, and you can see I've just started to file a little bit in there for this very slight curve. Okay, so the next thing is this is going to be difficult because this cable is actually quite heavy. Right, so that goes through there and into there like that. Wants to be just slightly further along than that. Wire keeps going through. Now then, this definitely needs to be lower. I'm going to put that out there. So this needs to bend down, definitely. So in fact I think I'll do that next. Let's take that out. We're going to bend this down, and then we'll try it again and we'll get it where it wants to be on here. Right, I've put a bend in it, and it seems to be just nicely about right. Actually, we'll go out there a bit. That's not touching the sides of the hole in here. I think we're going to put this at a very slight angle, so let me take a little bit off to make that sit up slightly. Then we'll do, oops, excuse me, on the floor of course, where am I? So we'll do it so it's very slightly up, and then we'll shape this. Just mill off, as I say, at an angle, mill off, and then we'll just round it all off nicely. So let me do that slight angle to that, and then I'll mill it more to shape. Right, I was just going to set this up in the mill, and when I'd drawn the pattern on it, I thought, you know, I could do that with the bandsaw. So there's the rough shape. When I've got it welded on, I'll round it up and maybe curve it a little bit front and back, same as this is, or a little bit at the front anyway. So let me put it in the other vise on the welding table. I've got a nice big edge to weld here. I've got to put a piece in there actually. And take the edges off there to give me something to weld into. So let me get that sorted. Hang on, let me pull you back a little bit here. Alright, so there it is on there. Smoothed in a bit. I would have cut that off, except part of it is the breather from here. So there it is. Goes through there. Goes in there. And that goes in the back. Alright. That should be a really light clutch pull. You know, maybe I could do with bending that down a bit more even. But that'll have to wait till next week. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's still up. Yeah, I'll do it now. There we go, that's better. When the cable's down there. That's very nice. Alright. So that's it for this week. I'm actually going to go and have a walk around the woods because it's nice and sunny and 50 something. So next week I think we'll put the gearbox together and get everything built up on this side of the engine. Then we can put the exhaust and all that on, and then have a go at the clutch side and the electronic ignition. And then of course we've got to get back to doing some more wheeling. Alright, so until then, stay safe and enjoy yourselves.